Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is the show where we perform cognitive triage on, well, some pretty complex source material.
We give you the shortcut.
We do. And today, the material is, I'd say it's more than just complex. It's utterly unique.
Oh, for sure. This is one of a kind.
I mean, we are strapping in for an intellectual journey that is, quite frankly, unlike anything we've ever experienced on the show before. We're not just analyzing a theory.
Yeah.
We are entering a whole universe, one that's been built from the ground up on first principles of philosophy, religion, and some pretty radical cosmology.
That's absolutely necessary to stress from the beginning. Our source material today is just extraordinary. It comes from this expansive, incredibly interdisciplinary work.
Right.
It's by an author known as the SKR, Sonu Kumar. And the book is titled The Legend Mind, Zero to Infinity.
What a title.
It is. And this book, it's an attempt to, well, reconstruct foundational reality. It blends mathematics, physics, cosmology, all with these deeply ingrained religious and philosophical perspectives.
The sheer scope of it is what first struck me. I mean, the inquiry is so intense. It's a curiosity that drives the author to search for answers across so many disciplines.
All of them.
Science, math, religious ideology, physics, cosmology, and even a field the author calls numberology. You know, this isn't just a book.
No, it's a framework, a complete alternative framework for existence. And it's born from this intense desire for enlightenment.
And that brings us to our focus today. We're diving deep into just one part of this massive work.
Chapter 16, Earth Construction. And this chapter is where the theory really hits the ground, so to speak. It's the practical application of SKR's entire cosmic worldview.
He proposes this incredibly detailed, really specific, and completely alternative theory for how our planet is structured.
Right down to the very nature of matter. And he's deliberately, consciously moving away from the established scientific models, specifically the fundamental forces that, we all learned about in school.
Okay, let's unpack this. But before we can get to the physics, the magnetic fields, and planetary layers, we have to start with the foundational frame.
The philosophy.
Exactly. We can't understand the physics model without first understanding the spiritual mandate that gave birth to it. This is the root of the whole inquiry.
Precisely. And our mission today is to break down this complex, really ambitious theory line by line. It's almost like we're following a revolutionary blueprint.
A movie-style breakdown.
Yes. We need to explore the author's unique definitions, his specific cosmology, and his very provocative central claim about magnetic forces.
And the total rejection of gravity.
The total rejection of gravity. We're reading the blueprint exactly as SKR laid it out.
So when you first open this text, the very first thing you see is the dedication.
Yeah.
And it's like the opening scene of a movie that sets this incredibly dramatic tone.
It really does. The book is explicitly dedicated to my immortal guru, the Lord Shiva.
Right. And this isn't just a casual nod or a cultural acknowledgement. It's a spiritual anchor. It grounds the entire intellectual pursuit in this deep commitment to detachment and finding an ultimate truth.
This dedication, it immediately raises the stakes. The preface and the acknowledgments, they build on this. They tell us that SKR was inspired by observing Lord Shiva.
He notes his lifestyle that they live from primordial time.
I mean, that's a commitment to an eternal perspective right there. And this realization, this inspiration, it drove SKR to seek a similar path. He wanted to achieve, in his words, zero attraction of the world.
And that is such a critical link because you see how he connects spiritual detachment directly to scientific inquiry.
Absolutely.
This path of self-realization, it required him to live alone, to seek answers. So this physical and emotional detachment from all the distractions of the world was basically a prerequisite.
A necessary step.
A necessary step to find the answers to what he calls the curious question that I had written in this book. He literally had to empty himself to let this cosmic truth come in.
So you see, for SKR, this quest for cosmic knowledge isn't just some academic exercise.
Not at all.
It's a spiritual mandate.
Yeah.
And he has this motto that frames every single chapter, J-I-G-U-R-U Devi. It acts as this rhythmic reminder of his guiding principle, his devotion to the master who inspired the whole journey.
And if that wasn't enough to convey the gravity and drama of his mission, SKR uses the title itself.
Legend.
Legend. He turns it into this profound acronym that defines the cosmic struggle that the book is trying to resolve.
We have to unpack that acronym because it really defines the stakes of his entire worldview.
Let's do it.
So LEGEND, it stands for L, Legacy, E, even, G, God, day, E-N, not D, demons.
Legacy even got in, not demons.
Just think about the implications there for a second. I mean, you have to. It's a statement that frames the entire search for knowledge, his whole cosmological and physical reconstruction, as this grand, almost mythological struggle.
It's epic.
It is. A struggle where the legacy of divinity, the ultimate truth, it ultimately triumphs. It is never extinguished by chaotic or destructive forces, which he calls the demons.
That is a staggering claim. It elevates the book from just, a list of interesting theories into this monumental, epic attempt to capture the ultimate triumphant truth of the universe.
Which means when you approach his physics, you have to remember this.
Yeah.
This is physics rooted in an assured divine legacy.
This context is absolutely crucial. So with that in mind, let's place Chapter 16, Earth Construction, within the architecture of this massive work.
Right, so this chapter, it sits right in the middle of Unit 2, which SKR calls the Legend Unique Questions.
And the previous units, they were basically prep work.
Exactly, preparatory. Unit 0 was about legend self-improvement, so it focused on building that necessary foundation of self-soul and mind awareness.
The kind of awareness you'd need for this kind of enlightened inquiry.
Right. And then Unit 1 was the observational unit. That's where SKR analyzed different human professions, how they operate in the world he was, about to redefine.
So Unit 2 is the main event.
Unit 2 is the big payoff. It is the application of the enlightened, observant mind now turned towards the universe itself. And these aren't just his personal questions.
No, he frames them as world-demanded questions.
World-demanded questions. Like, these are the great mysteries that all of humanity has been yearning to solve.
And Chapter 16 is just one part of a sequence that's designed to tackle these massive, interconnected concepts.
Oh, huge concepts. Unit 2 addresses things like the basic calendar of humankind, the value of infinity, Earth construction, of course.
Also, multiple universes and their shape.
The story of digits, the meaning of zero shades, and critically, this idea of one as the mother of all natural real number.
I mean, it's just an overwhelming list of deep cosmological and mathematical problems.
And what's also fascinating, and this reinforces his commitment to a shared intellectual legacy, is his strategy for presenting these ideas.
Right, he's very clear about this.
He states that he presents his questions and theories in a rough way or big picture, not imperfect way.
So why do that? I mean, why not present a polished, definitive answer?
Well, it comes back to that legacy component of legend, right?
Okay.
SKR says this approach is specifically designed to allow many more person from different profession to work smart on this question for better knowledge. He's not just inviting collaboration.
He's demanding it.
He is. He's opening the door to scientists, astrologers, mathematicians, numerologists, physicists, inviting them to step into his blueprint and get perfect results.
So he sees it as a foundational framework, rooted in his unique spiritual insight.
And it's intended to spark this massive collaborative intellectual exploration across the entire world. It's like he's throwing down a gauntlet, challenging the best minds to take his premise and just run with it.
Okay, so from that overarching philosophical mandate, let's transition into the literal groundwork of our world.
The ground we're standing on.
Exactly. Before SKR can even describe the mechanics of how Earth was built, he starts with the source of our knowledge about the planet.
The word itself.
The word itself, E-A-R-T-H.
This is such a beautiful piece of syncretism. The blending of two distinct belief systems, Eastern and Western, through a single English word.
How so?
Well, he begins by observing that the word E-A-R-T-H is made up of 5 letters. For him, this isn't just an arbitrary label, it's a revelation. It's an instruction manual hidden in plain sight.
He believes that if you look deep enough, this one word, explain deep about the 5 elements from which our whole Earth, including universe, is made up of.
It's like the divine code of creation was embedded right there in the English language, just waiting for an enlightened mind to come along and decode it.
And he connects this directly to Hindu mythology.
Right, specifically to the concept of the Panch Bhuta. He notes the common belief that the human body and the universe are both constructed from 5 foundational elements.
And those are fire, air, Hawa,
water, or Pani, the world or land itself, Dharti or Prithvi, and finally the sky, or Akash.
So, SKR's big claim here is that the 5 letters of the English word E-A-R-T-H are not a coincidence.
Not at all. They symbolize and signify these very 5 essential cosmic elements. This is the moment where his spiritual quest yields a linguistic key to unlock the universe.
So we have to go through this letter by letter just as he presents it, because these definitions, they're foundational to the physical world he's about to build for us.
Absolutely. Let's do a line-by-line analysis of the acronym.
Okay, starting with E.
Energy is fire, or egg.
Energy is fire. So that's the raw, dynamic, life-giving element. It's the spark, right? The engine, the power source that's embedded in the structure of the cosmos.
Exactly. Then you have A.
A as wind, or Hawa.
This signifies the gaseous component, the movement, the very breath of existence, and crucially, this is the element that will make up the outermost layer of his Earth structure.
Okay, that's important. Next is R.
R is rain, as water, or pani. This is the fluid element. Essential for life, obviously, but he specifically uses it to represent the oceans.
Which will become the middle layer in his construction theory.
Uh-uh.
I see the pattern.
You see it? And then T.
T is world, or Prithvi. Now this one is interesting, not just land, but tree is world.
Right. This is the solid, grounded component. By focusing on tree, SKR is emphasizing the living, physical landmass, the Darti. This is what forms the inner core of the planet in his model.
The living core. And finally, H.
H, heaven as sky, or Akash. This encompasses the vastness, the ethereal, the space that contains all the other elements. It's what links the terrestrial components to the grand cosmic environment.
So SKR's emphasis here is key. These 5 words, energy, air, rain, tree, heaven, they don't just describe features of the Earth.
No, they indicate the 5 elements from which our world as Earth is being formed.
So for him, the entire composition and all the physical mechanics that follow are inherent in the name itself.
This elemental understanding is the necessary prequel to the physical construction process, which, as we'll see, he explains entirely through magnetic forces.
It's a really elegant, concise way to unify the spiritual and the physical. He goes from this sacred text of mythology to the literal text of the English language.
And in doing so, creates this universal, self-referential map of the cosmos. It sets the perfect stage for his mechanical theory.
Which is a massive transition. This is where we move from the elemental composition of the world to the mechanical assembly.
We're leaving the poetry of the elements and entering the mechanics of creation.
And according to SKR, this is all dictated by the concept of force of attraction between 2 different opposites with different nature of magnetic force in cosmic level.
And what's fascinating here is, this is the fundamental premise that governs his entire theory.
Go on.
SKR isn't just tweaking classical physics. He's replacing the operating system completely.
So he's saying Earth's existence, its structure, its stability, it all relies entirely on a system of magnetic polarity and attraction.
Yes, and in doing so, he fundamentally rejects gravity as the primary force.
Okay, so to visualize this, we have to precisely define the magnetic polarity of all the key players in the cosmos as he sees it.
We do. We need a detailed understanding of what's pulling and what's being pulled.
So where do we start?
Let's start with the largest container, the solar system environment itself. According to SKR, the space that surrounds our solar system is vacant.
But not empty.
Definitely not empty. He's very clear. This vacant space is filled with a north magnetic field.
And he characterizes this north field as weak constant. That phrasing seems extremely important.
It is. The weak nature means it can be easily dominated by stronger forces, but the constant nature means it's pervasive, it's unchanging, always present. It provides this uniform external magnetic blanket across the whole cosmos.
So that's the space. What about the stuff in the space?
The aggregated matter, right. SKR states very clearly that the sun, all the planets, including Earth-all satellites, meteorites, and asteroids, are all uniformly of a south magnetic field nature.
So that's a universal principle in his model.
A universal principle. Whenever cosmic elements clump together to form a celestial body, that body inherently carries a south polarity.
Okay, so let's zoom in on Earth, which is the focus of Chapter 16. The Earth as a whole is south magnetic.
But he specifies the core. The Earth's core is considered a strong south magnetic field.
A strong south magnetic field.
And this is the critical differential. You have to understand this for the compression model to make any sense.
So you have the strong south magnetic core acting as the central engine.
Versus the surrounding space, which is the weak constant north magnetic field. And these 2 opposite magnetic fields, with vastly different but complementary strengths, are the cosmic forces locked in this perpetual dialogue of attraction.
Okay, wait, a question comes to mind here. If every celestial body planets, moons, the sun is a south magnetic and the vacant space is north magnetic, doesn't that imply that the relationship between, say, any two planets would be one of magnetic repulsion, south repel south. So how does his theory account for planetary orbits and dynamics without a centripetal force like gravity?
That's a really important question. And the answer, I think, lies in understanding the scope of his claim in this chapter. His focus here is on construction.
How the planet holds its shape.
Exactly, how Earth maintains its shape and holds matter together. In his model, the interaction between individual planets is dominated not by some negligible south-south repulsion between two bodies that are millions of miles apart.
But by the massive, omnipresent south-north attraction.
Yes. The strong core is pulling the entire external north field inward, so the relationship between two planets becomes a secondary concern, really, relative to the primary overwhelming attraction between each planet's core and its surrounding magnetic space.
So this inward pull is the force that defines existence for an object like Earth.
It is. The magnetic dialogue is strictly internal and regional, focused on maintaining the integrity of the sphere. It's a system where the outside is being pulled in and the center is pulling in even harder, constantly reinforcing the structure.
It's all about that differential. Strong south versus weak constant north.
Exactly. If the core were just south and the space were north with equal strength, you might get some kind of equilibrium, but you wouldn't get the extreme compression that you need to form a solid planet and hold all the matter onto its surface. That strength difference is absolutely essential for the mechanics that come next.
Okay, so to help us visualize this continuous, relentless magnetic attraction, SKR uses a simple, really tangible analogy.
He brings this high-level physics right down to a comprehensible level.
It feels very much like that movie-style moment we talked about, right? Focusing on a familiar object to explain a cosmic force.
It is. He uses the rubber tennis ball, and this analogy is the absolute key to understanding his compression mechanism.
So he tells us to visualize a common action. You press a rubber tennis ball with your hand.
Your hand is the external force, and what happens? The ball contracts towards its center. It moves in an inward direction.
And SKR is arguing that this inward contraction, this pressure, isn't just like Earth's formation.
He's saying it is the process.
So we take that image, the tennis ball under pressure, and we apply it directly to the Earth. The Earth, which is made of continents, oceans, and atmosphere, is formed by these three elements being pressed.
As tightly as like the tennis ball is pressed towards inward direction.
Just think about the magnitude of that pressure for a second. It's a force that has to be tremendous enough to consolidate these completely different states of matter, solid land, fluid water, gaseous air, into one unified rotating sphere.
And that constant inward force is what organizes everything and holds it all in place.
Which leads directly to the question that the author anticipates and then answers.
Right.
If the hand is the external force pressing the tennis ball, then which force pressed the Earth towards inward direction? What's the hand? What provides the pressure?
And the answer SKR provides relies entirely on that magnetic differential we just spent time on. The force is generated by the attraction of force work between strong south magnetic field and constant weak north magnetic field.
So let's try to visualize this. It's like a cosmic handshake that just never, ever ends.
That's a good way to put it.
The space outside the Earth is surrounded by that persistent, constant, weak north magnetic force.
And the core of the Earth, which has the strong south magnetic force, is actively, perpetually attracts the constant north magnetic weak force toward the center of Earth as a tennis ball is compressed by hand towards inward direction.
So the Earth's core isn't just a passive object.
Not at all. It's an engine.
Mm-hmm.
It is actively, perpetually pulling its magnetic environment toward its center, and as that magnetic field gets pulled inward, it drags and compresses all the physical elements caught within it.
The air, the water, and the land.
All of it.
This also addresses something he mentioned later as a required factor, the necessity of mass. If the force is purely magnetic, why does an object need mass? Well, in this compression model, mass provides the inertia. It's the physical substance that resists that inward magnetic pull, which allows it to be compacted and to hold its form rather than just being, diffused or annihilated by the magnetic field.
That's a great point. It's mass under magnetic pressure that constitutes existence.
Right. So the result of this strong inward magnetic attraction, this continuous external press, is the formation of three distinct compressed layers.
And they're neatly ordered by their density and their placement in relation to the core.
So the layers, they reflect the five elements we discussed earlier, just consolidated by this pressure.
Exactly. He describes them as the inner part, which is land functioning as the core of the Earth,
On the middle part, which is water, so the oceans.
and the outer part, which is air, the atmosphere.
What's remarkable is that he defines the inner part as land, functioning as the core.
Not a molten metallic core like in the conventional model.
Right. This land is the ultimate consolidated form of that Prithvi element, compressed by this incredible magnetic force.
It's the ultimate solid, and it's surrounded by the fluid, the water, which is then surrounded by the gaseous, the air. The tennis ball compression model perfectly accounts for the entire stratification of the planet based on these elemental states.
And crucially, he makes it clear that this mechanical model is just one piece of a much larger cosmic puzzle he's building.
Right, he refers back to his forthcoming work, The Universe Movement Theory.
And in that chapter, he promises to explain the very origin of these north and south magnetic forces, linking them to rotation and revolution via the right-hand thumb rule.
Which tells you that SKR's model is entirely integrated. It's a closed system. The magnetic fields aren't just arbitrary. They are the fundamental consequence of celestial motion.
So he's claiming that the dynamics of the universe, the rotation,
Create the forces, the magnetism.
which then build the structure, the compression.
It's an elegant, unified, and completely self-contained system.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. And, truly radical.
This is the climax of the chapter.
It is. SKR doesn't just present a magnetic theory of planetary structure. He presents it as the fundamental, exclusive reason for existence, which leads to this forceful, explicit challenge and total rejection of classical gravitational theory.
The claim is just. It's uncompromising. We need to dedicate some serious time to understanding how forceful this declaration really is.
He states, and I'm quoting here, that this strong inward force of attraction by Earth is the reason for all existence of all living and non-living thing on Earth, not because of gravity that all exist in Earth.
Not because of gravity. Full stop.
So he argues that the perceived stability of objects on Earth, why we don't just float away, is purely a consequence of the strong south magnetic core, constantly pulling the external north magnetic field inward.
Which compresses everything in its path.
Everything. So gravity in the Newtonian or Einsteinian sense it's obsolete. Or maybe it's just a misinterpretation of this massive magnetic pressure.
To accept this, you have to fundamentally change how you view the word down.
Right.
Down is no longer the direction of some universal, invisible, attractive force that's proportional to mass. Down is simply the direction of the ceaseless, overwhelming compression exerted by that strong south core.
And to back this up, SKR provides a specific, observable, real-world example to support this radical claim and to dismantle the traditional concept of gravity.
The phenomenon of burning fire.
The fire example.
This is the crucial observational evidence he cites. So let's dissect this. Conventionally, we know dense objects fall and heat rises.
Right. Gravity explains why things fall, and buoyancy, hot air being less dense, explains why heat rises.
But SKR frames it completely differently.
He states that burning fire break the constant inward force by Earth is produced and allow fire to burn in upward direction. And he highlights that this upward movement is against the gravity about which our scientists tell that all the things in Earth is present because of gravity.
Okay, so let's follow the internal logic of SKR's magnetic theory. In his view, fire is not just hot air, it is an energy source. It's the egg element we talked about at the beginning.
The first element, E for energy.
Exactly. When this energy source is produced, it acts as a disruptive agent. The magnetic field that holds all the matter in place is constantly pushing everything inward. Fire, through its energy output, actively pushes outward against that constant inward force.
So in this model, gravity doesn't exist. There's only magnetic compression. And fire, being this vibrant energy, is literally pushing back against the hand that's compressing the tennis ball.
Yes. And because the fire is actively resisting and breaking that constant pressure, it moves in the only direction possible upward, against the flow of compression.
This is a devastating piece of internal logic against the concept of gravity.
It is. If gravity were a universal attraction, then even hot air and energy should eventually be pulled back or confined by it in some way. But SKR says no. That inward force is compressible. It's breakable by energy, which proves it's a magnetic pressure field and not some unbreakable gravitational law.
So a flame is literally a microscopic battle against planetary structure.
What a thought.
It's a moment where one of the five elements, energy or egg, asserts its dynamic nature by momentarily overcoming the static compressive forces that define the layers of land, water, and air.
And the conclusion SKR draws from this is, again, just uncompromising. Therefore, there is no gravity in Earth for the existence of all matters as living and non-living things.
Instead, it is solely the external force of attraction between strong south magnetic force made by our Earth and constant weak north magnetic force made by our vacant space outside our Earth. That's the only reason for Earth's construction and for material existence.
It's a complete philosophical and physical overhaul.
We have moved entirely away from the four fundamental forces of modern science and replaced them with a single, magnetically driven, compression-based reality.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, what the author is doing is providing a complete, self-contained, and integrated model of cosmic physics rooted in magnetic polarity.
He argues the existence of matter isn't a singular event. It's the result of two combined mandatory factors.
Right. Factor one is the fundamental force, the internal force of attraction by Earth toward its center.
That's the strong south core constantly pulling the weak north space inward. That's the engine of existence.
And factor two is the necessary property of the object itself, the mass of every matter in the form of living and non-living things.
Okay, so mass isn't the source of the attractive force like in Newtonian physics.
No, it's a necessary precondition for an object to be held in the compression model.
So matter exists because it has the mass. That's factor two, required to be physically compressed and held down by the relentless magnetic pressure, which is factor one.
It is the combination of an object's substance being subjected to this unrelenting, centrally directed magnetic pressure that allows it to exist, or as he says, be alive, within the whole Earth structure in the universe.
SKR believes this self-referential system, which he derived from spiritual insight and linguistic decoding, offers a complete rough blueprint that satisfies those world-demanded questions.
He's provided a unified theory that governs the cosmos, from the smallest flame to the largest planet, all through the lens of magnetic polarity and compression.
What an extraordinary deep dive. I mean, where do you even start to summarize?
That's a lot.
We started with the spiritual foundation of the SKR, driven by this dedication to Lord Shiva, and a mandate to achieve enlightened wisdom.
Then we saw that wisdom reflected in the linguistic key of the word EARTH.
Mapping the 5 letters to the 5 foundational elements of Hindu mythology: energy, air, rain, tree, and heaven.
And from there, we move seamlessly from those poetic elements to the rigid mechanics. We use that simple, relatable analogy of the compressed tennis ball to explain a radical new theory of planetary structure.
A theory that dictates Earth's stratified layers. The core of land, the middle layer of water, and the outer layer of air were all formed by the relentless compression caused by the strong south magnetic core pulling the weak north magnetic field of space inward.
And then the most provocative part.
The climax. The explicit, full-throated rejection of gravity as the reason for existence. For SKR, the presence of all living and non-living matter is a function of that constant inward magnetic pull combined with an object's essential mass.
All demonstrated so vividly by the upward movement of burning fire, which he says actively breaks and resists that compressive force.
So the 2 key radical claims that you have to walk away with are these. First,
Earth's construction and its layers are dictated solely by the dialogue between its internal strong south magnetic core and the external weak north magnetic space.
and second,
This magnetic attraction, coupled with an object's mass, provides the sufficient and necessary condition for the existence of matter, and it entirely supersedes the traditional concept of gravity.
so what does this all mean? It means understanding that for this author, for SKR, the universe is fundamentally governed by a magnetic dialogue of polarity and compression, not by gravitational dominance.
It's an elegant, unified model, and it's derived not from, particle accelerators, but from a profound spiritual conviction.
It really forces you to apply critical thinking to the very forces we take for granted every single day.
It's a challenge to our most foundational assumptions.
So the author promises to discuss the origin of these critical magnetic fields, via rotation and revolution, in his next chapter, The Universe Movement Theory. So based on the source material we have right now, where the sun, all planets, satellites, meteorites, and asteroids are all classified as having a south magnetic field in sense of nature. If the fundamental force governing our existence is magnetic attraction, and attraction requires both south and north polarity, What assumptions do you need to rethink about the stars and planets around us? And what relationship must they have with that universal constant north magnetic field of vacant space?
That is the question.
That is the question SKR demands we mull over as we wait for the next chapter.
Until next time, keep diving deep into the cosmos.
JIGRUDV